One of the biggest reasons why AMC has not done what it's supposed to do, what is due in terms of the short squeeze or the mother of all short squeeze happening, is definitely payment for order flow. All right. Or that can also translate into, dark pools activity, because sometimes the amount of trades taking place in terms of volume in AMC stock alone can go all the way to 75% of all the volumes of shares being traded in AMC stock alone can go within the dark pools. And we know that is a major issue why AMC has been suppressed anytime, every time it was due to a huge run up. Now, that being said, we already know that the Fed, not the Fed, the SEC, maybe it's both people, it's both acronyms, but just kidding. But the SEC said a couple of months ago that they were contemplating the idea of banning payment for order flow. And then in September, they came out and said, you know what, we are not so sure. But let me share with you a news that is coming from Reuters that is actually maybe going to change that again, because this is something we've discussed, I think, a year ago, but it's coming back on the forefront. This is from Unusual Wales. Usually he has pretty lit, fresh, accurate, reliable information coming from Bloomberg. The EU, European Union, is suggesting that a curb on dark pool or off-exchange trading of shares in the European Union should be completely removed, and they should also scrap the proposed ban on payment for order flow, per Reuters. So Reuters, Bloomberg, all of these are reliable sources that you can trust when it comes to any information in regards to the stock market and the economy. So we already knew that in European Union and even abroad, so the London Stock Exchange is the biggest exchange in the world. Some people think it's the New York Stock Exchange, but in reality, it's the London Stock Exchange, all right? So the New York Stock Exchange only comes second. But in European Union, in China, in Hong Kong, in the Shanghai Stock Exchange, in Japan, none of the payment for order flow is actually accepted. So payment for order flow is banned over there. That we already knew. Now, what may also be on the brink of being added on top of that as a layer is, completely changing and switching the way off-exchange trading takes place. Remember, off-exchange trading is definitely when two people or more people or parties kind of agree to do business on their own terms without kind of having to impact or interact with the overall market. Usually, we're talking about huge numbers in terms of deals, amounts, capital being managed and exchanged within hands. That's why we had this off-exchange or dark pool activity. But they've been overly abused because the short sellers and the hedges in AMC stock specific case and some of the other bunch of meme stocks have been used in order to kind of suppress the buying pressure coming from the retail investors, and that has been going through payment for order flow. So a total ban on payment for order flow is definitely changed that, and we can see exactly how the reality of the supply, of the law of the supply and demand in AMC can definitely and finally take place, and we can see AMC reaching potentially triple or even more digits just because of the supply and demand that is just overwhelming when it comes to AMC stock. And that's why they had to kind of direct or redirect everything through the dark pools or off exchange for the squeeze not to happen. So if the European Union is already kind of thinking about that, and to completely again reiterate that we don't want payment for order flow in our stock exchange, then it gets very bullish for us holding AMC stock. Why? Because remember, big banks are now global, right? So you have Bank of America or Morgan Stanley or all of these big hedge funds, not only trading securities in the US exchange, but also in the European market, in the Asian market, etc., etc. That's why anything happening in a major kind of event, dragging some of these, big institutions down, even though happening outside of the US Stock Exchange, can definitely have a slip into what is happening here in our current market, because the players are pretty much the same. It's just a different market, all right? So if the EU is already kind of talking about that, I can definitely see some of the players in the US starting to get ready to get out, especially if they are originally, have the headquarters or maybe are taking the capital coming from Europe. All right. So that can curve and definitely, put a little bit of breaks onto the amount of activity taking place there. All right. So this is just pure speculation from my end, but I can see that happening. So no guarantee it will, but definitely the fact that the US is the only place where payment for order flow and maybe off exchange trading is just completely off the hook can definitely be reinforced in terms of laws, regulation, and we can see how this can definitely finally maybe lift off the lid around the AMC pressure cooker and get us to where we need to go. So let's just see how it unfolds.